Welcome to World Chefs Podcast. I'm your host, Ragnar, and you're listening to World on a Plate. If you've been following World Chefs over the last few years, you would have heard about digital badges, digital credentials, all these things. And World Chef has, in fact, been partnering with City and Guilds and Credly, which is the world leading platform for badging, to use what we say verified skills in the hospitality sector and for chefs in particular. And so through this partnership, World Chefs has been able to badge and sublet our platform to different partners, such as you, our members, the member associations, all the culinary schools in our education network, to employers, and really using this great tool and with great feedback, really. But maybe what needs a better explanation is actually how powerful the digital badging can be as a tool for in various contexts. So I have with me today an expert in the field, and I have Sam Egerton, who is the sales leader at City and Guilds, and I've been involved in this revolution for quite some years now. So I want to welcome you, Sam. Nice to have you.
Thanks, Ragnar.
Hey, Sam. So you've been working on these badges, and people are sort of sometimes people have understand it, and some people like what is the guy talking about? Why do you want to explain to us, sort of in very slowly and a few words, what are digital credentials or digital badges? Or is it the same thing? Or tell us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so digital credentials or digital badges, whatever, which absolutely the same thing. They're absolutely the same thing. So it's almost it's a certificate that is virtual and digital, so it doesn't sit in a crumpled up certificate that's sat in your backpack or in your CV, etc. It becomes part of a digital CV. But what's really great about them is it showcases skills and behaviors that you've learned rather than just focusing on, say, a qualification and that. So that's one of the most powerful things about the credentials is that if you put a certificate up into your office or in your kitchen, you go home and show your parents or your kids, they're the only person who gets to see them, and see that credential and see the achievements that you've got. With a digital credential, what you're able to do is you're able to share that across your thousands of connections that you have across any social media platform. So be that LinkedIn for more of a professional look, or Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Now, any of your platforms that you work with, you can share that platform. So not only for an employer, it's a great marketing tool to be able to get that out there, but equally for an individual, either looking for work, looking to move into a new job, it easily puts out the skills and behaviors that somebody has learned and earned on there out into the marketplace as well.
Hey, I mean, what you said really in the beginning is it's a certificate. It's just delivered in a different way. Do you know how this came about? How he sort of moved into instead of handing people out papers.
Yes,
I mentioned Credly earlier. Yeah.
Yes.
Relationship with Credly
yeah. So for us, it was all about mobility. And mobility of being in City and Guilds is a global organization. We work across every continent in the world, and to be able to showcase your skills, whether you gain them skills in China or you gain them skills in South Africa, Zimbabwe, wherever that is, you can take that credential with you. It has the City and Guilds brand, which is recognized globally across there, which matches that skills that work across. So the first port was mobility when it started all that, and being able to showcase them skills across there. And actually, it shouldn't matter whether you gained that credential, like I say, in one country to the other. It's showcasing the same skills and the same skills that have been learned. More importantly, nowadays, it's more about it becomes about sustainability. So every time that we create a paper certificate, we're cutting down trees, it's not great for the environment. So it adds them two elements both together: mobility and showcasing skills globally, but also then the environmental and sustainability benefits of something being accessible on your mobile, on your computer, rather than having to do the traditional chopping down trees to produce certificates.
Yeah, I remember the time of printing out my CV and 20 examples and all the certificates that came along with it, and a pack of this. And for every employer, I would send this out by post. That's how old I am, Sam.
I guess, but you know what? That wasn't that long ago, because I remember doing that as well.
It was only yesterday. And yeah, no, but like you said, I mean, how do people recruit today? They recruit through LinkedIn. In our case, we work with HostGo, our hospitality platform. So yeah, I guess it makes sense to, this recruitment is happening online. Shouldn't the credentials be moving online?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I think one of the key things as well is that when you build up your you can showcase where you might be adapting a CV to meet a certain job requirement and to be able to kind of label your skills. When your skills are all in one place where you've got everything labeled, yes, I've done this, and this, it allows them to be, it's so much more transferable. Like I say, the mobility of being able to, very, very quickly in a job interview, anywhere, is pull out your mobile phone on your smartphone. You can pull up your dashboard and you can showcase immediately what you've kind of achieved, what you've received. It's a much more powerful way of, like I say, having to pull out a scrumpled piece of paper out of your briefcase, or you've dropped a cup of coffee onto it, or whatever that may be. So from a professional point of view, it allows you to be able to, be able to kind of showcase what you can do. And sometimes you can't do that on a paper certificate, because it will just tell you just what the qualification that you've got, or what achievement that you've had. Within a digital credential that's sat behind there is metadata, and that metadata showcases the real skills and behaviors. So not that I've just achieved the qualification, what I've actually done to be able to do that. So you're really showcasing skills.
Yeah. That's a very good point, because I mean, actually, the way World Chef have been using this, and it's become very popular with individual chefs, is that we have numerous webinars every month, and so in chefs that are attending those will receive a badge, a digital certificate, in other words. And so instead of having to update their CV every 2 weeks, well, they're just collecting all these little badges into their profile and updating sort of seamlessly, aren't they? And so yeah, it's as you said. So yeah, and I didn't think about it as like, actually we're mapping their behavior. Yes. So we're actually making the system more intelligent, of like, in terms of how to find the best jobs that match their behaviors, if I can say it like that. But yeah, their skills, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's becoming more and more, important that, with experience as well, and the experience that you've gained throughout a work life, you can't certificate all of them experiences. So you can't have an experience every time a certificate every time you've learned to do something new, but you do get a new experience and you do get a new skill set. And what credentials are really valuable and able to do is to be able to do that very, very quickly. So you can issue a badge from all levels of, what I would call quite entry level, stuff, all the way to, real professional, where you have to be a master of your trade, and whatever that, trade may be, to be able to do that. And it showcases all of that, and it creates a career path. And that's the other thing that you can see over the numerous number of years that you've used credentials, built up credentials. CPD is so more important than ever in any profession now, and where you can kind of build that up without having to have another paper certificate, hold that somewhere safe. Even a PDF certificate, they're still not easily transportable, where the credentials visually look great. They look a lot nicer than a paper certificate ever will, but it does hold them skills and behaviors within there.
That's right. I mean, I know this sort of started like our platform Credly that sits in Silicon Valley. It really started in the IT sector where you would where things change so fast. Like if you learned a SQL language, any sort of new coding language, they change ever so often, and you have to take a reskilling course, and so they were continue to reskilling. How do you at City and Guild see, like, where did the connection come with the hospitality and the chefs?
Yeah, and hospitality is one of our key sectors. It's where we've been, we've had a footprint in hospitality for years and years and years, hundreds of years within there. And it's because City and Guild is all about vocational, and it's all about the doing, and it's not necessarily about the theory that sits behind it. And it was how do you showcase the practical skills that somebody has learned in a way without them actually physically having to do that. And credentials was a way that we could do that, because you can actually put the behaviors and the skills that somebody's learned behind there. But even more importantly, I think in the hospitality sector, there's so many different roles. There's so many, and you can go from one role to another role very, very quickly in terms of learning and being able to learn that new skill, all the way from your front of house to to cooking in the back. It's and that's really, it was really important to be able to showcase transferable skills. So you need to have customer service elements of skills no matter what role you're in, whether you're in the front of house or whether you're a chef in the kitchen. You need to have some sort of customer service skills, and it's really easy through credentials to showcase them transferable skills. And that's what's really important, is that just because somebody hasn't done a professional qualification in that, or they haven't done it, doesn't mean that they do not have the skills to be able to do that. And recognizing them skills and helping people move into a job, onto the next job, within there, is really, really important for City and Guilds. And that's City and Guilds' purpose, is to make sure that we can recognize them skills to help people move throughout their career, but also, to look for the skills shortages that are, evident across, across the world, to be able to go, well, how do we plug them? Well, actually, if we can showcase, more people's skills and more people's behaviors that are on there, then, you can train and learn new things, but, you can't necessarily train somebody's behaviors. That's very much ingrained in them and who they are. And it gives you that element that somebody is, learning, they're wanting to learn, move on to their next job, and into a real career. And it showcases a career in particular across the hospitality sector.
Yeah. And I mean, we saw that, well, for World Chefs, we've sort of had the opportunity to play with this platform, play with the badging, sort of as a guinea pig of City and Guilds' guinea pig. And I think we sort of caught on during COVID, and we saw like, wow, the chefs are now sitting idle, and they're like with the fingers, turning their fingers. And so we decided, like, we're going to keep the glue, the society, the community get together by bringing them to a webinar. That's all we could do. Webinars, or even just like hangouts and get together and exchange, or panel discussions, or what have you. And this is where the badging came in. So we use it in very, very different types of manners and different levels. And that's really when it sort of hit off. And the chefs were like, they became extremely eager to participate and get their badge and share their badge. And so this would get like a lot of acknowledgement. They were reshared and bravo from their peers, and so like the word spread out, and so we have a really positive experience. And so right now where we're at, and what is interesting to explore with you is, I mean, how can companies use this to engage in schools, or we have association members, or our national members in different 110 countries. There are lots of opportunities in different contexts where you can use this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, it's a really powerful tool for marketability, is, for an organization, in terms of, we generally, each person, if they're on a professional network like LinkedIn, for example, so generally people have around about 500 plus connections on LinkedIn. On average, a badge is shared around about 3.9 times on there. So if you've got 500 connections and that badge is then shared to your 500 network of people, you're showcasing that company, but also then that your employee or the person that works for you or a prospective, employer, your your skills and what you've done to kind of achieve that. So that's the first thing, is around about that marketability for an organization, to say, come and work for us. We do great CPD, great training, etc. But equally for the employees that already work there, that they're saying this is a really fantastic company to work for. And I think one of the key things now, as you look at people and skills, is that employees want to remain engaged with their employer, and one of the best ways to do that is training, CPD, because we can't always do it in monetary terms, and that only works for so long. It's about challenging people to do the next thing. So how do you challenge them to do that? Well, you train them something new, you upskill them, you keep them motivated by doing that. What badges allows that to do is to recognize that, and people are more motivated because they want to achieve the next one, and they want to be able to share that, and they get to collect that in their, what I call their digital backpack or their digital CV, which can showcase all of their badges that they've received and earned from that point of view. The other beauty that it allows organizations to do is to really look at the weaknesses that they have. So for example, if they're doing they've got a collection of badges, and they know that they're upskilling a workforce, or they've got gaps in their company, they can do a real deep dive over their through their skills that sit in the organization. And they can go, well, actually, Ragnar doesn't have that skill, and Sam doesn't have that skill. Who in the organization has that skill? What badges allow you to see is the visibility to say, well, they've earned that badge for that skill or that behavior that they've learned. So that's somebody that they can recognize within there. So it really looks at the gaps that they've got in their organization, if they use it in the right way, from that perspective. Then you look at the school market, and digital credentials is seen as the next is techie, like you said at the start. Started in the Silicon Valley, within their kids nowadays. I've got a 13-year-old son. Everything tech he's involved in. So whether that's his computers, etc. And when he's at school now, they don't want these paper certificates. It's about building up these skills, knowledge, behaviors, and ingraining in our in schools around actually showcasing these and being really proud of them. And when something looks smart, it is simple to understand for the person who's earned it, but also for the person who's issued it, and for people who it's shared with. It's a really great tool to be able to showcase in all of their markets, whether you're in school or in an employer, and they're just as transferable, because the more employers use them, the more then when a student or a school leaver, whoever that may be, is going into that environment, they'll just become more recognizable as a currency of learning. And that's really what credentials are. It is a currency of learning.
Yeah. No, and what I found interesting when you mentioned in the beginning of the example, the employers. So as you said, there's lots of continuous learning within a hotel, for example, food and hygiene and food safety, or what have you, or it can be all sort of a continuous learning, and to map out the competencies that you have. And also maybe and this is another example from the collaboration with City and Guilds that I want to share with World Chefs, is our global culinary certification. So it allows companies to identify actually the competencies that they do have that have not been that are not official. Explaining myself. So we have our global culinary certification, and there's a commis chef level that we have benchmarked. What does that mean to be a commis chef, or a chef de partie, or a sous chef? We know around the world in hotels, you have a lot of very skilled workers working in kitchen for 10 years, 20 years under strong leadership with all the processes in place, but they've never gone to a school. They have no diploma to show for that. And so there again, like then we can go in as partners and really map out the competencies that are in this building, this hotel, and say, well, hey, these guys here, they are sous chef. They're working as a sous chef. They have all the qualifications. They can show us the evidence that they have, and we can recognize those.
Yeah, and it's so important. I think there's, not everybody across the world has the advantage of going, to school or going to college or university, and we can say, but that doesn't mean that they're not educated, and that doesn't mean that they haven't got the skills and they haven't got the the behaviors, and there's lots of of famous people in the hospitality industry who are all self-taught. They haven't had that go in there. They might have learned from their parents, then went and worked under a under a chef in a hotel or a restaurant and built up their skills and knowledge that way. And it's so important that we recognize that they are skills that have learned where they haven't necessarily gone to a college or a university, or the traditional route, as we'll call it, in terms of that way. Recognizing them skills and behaviors is so important, because that then allows them and gives them a passport to learn, and a passport to a new career, to new opportunities, and that's in this the amount of kind of mobility and social mobility in the world nowadays. It will allow somebody to potentially of learn their trade and skills in, say, Nigeria, and be able to walk into a restaurant in France or in England and go, this is how I can prove that I've got the skills to demonstrate that I'm working at this level. And that's really, really powerful. When you think about any other, with a paper certificate, that doesn't transport as well, or just being able to tell somebody that doesn't transport as well. This is a real easy, simple, clear way of being able to recognize somebody's skills that they've learned along the way.
Yeah. And I mean, and I guess you can really create a badge for anything. Maybe like if listening to us, if there are hotels, or I know a lot of education managers and also hotel managers are listening to us. How does it work? How can they start from scratch and start badging?
Yeah. So and like you said, you can badge somebody for absolutely anything. So if it's a school, it could be for doing really well in lesson. It could be that, or if it's a hotel, it could be for for their own customer service program. It could be that somebody's wanting to they've got an in-house program that they want to kind of badge. It can be for absolutely anything that people can badge. Like I say, turning up to a webinar, turning up to CPD.
Yeah, turn up. Like we do it for our Congress. I'm now talking to our association members in all of the countries. Just attending a meeting. Attend a meeting. If there was an educational context to it, even better. So
absolutely.
So technically, how does it work? So you can you design a badge.
So you design a badge. So you put that, for that marketability, you put your logo on that badge. You then have to kind of go in and create and write metadata for that. So metadata, really simply, is the data behind it to show what that person's done to earn that badge. So that could be that Ragnar has turned up to this meeting and contributed by doing XYZ within there. So it could be really as simple as that, or it could be a lot more detailed. And that's the beauty of it, is that it doesn't lose the currency. If you issue 1 million badges, it doesn't lose the currency, because it's the metadata that's behind it that is really important. So the visual is great, but actually the meaning behind that badge. So once you've created your metadata and your owning criteria, then that is set as a badge at that point. Now, all badges go directly to the learner and the person or the earner. Not necessarily the learner, but the earner of the badge, and that's done via an email. So that email, you issue that badge via your platform, and that goes then directly to the earner, and that earner then has the option to accept the badge or decline that badge. Once they accept that badge, they have to create their own platform. Now, if you're with multiple, as we want people to, to kind of move around in their careers, and they could have had badges from, previous companies or previous courses that they've done. And as long as they've used the same email address, then all of them badges then get stored in together. So it's really, really simple. You can create as many badges, as you want on that platform. You can issue as, you issue the badges within there. It's really simple. So although it's tech, and sometimes tech scares people on there, it's made very, very simple. So anybody can go in, they can create a badge, they can write the metadata, and then they can send that badge. And there really is that 3-step process.
Yeah. Even like once you receive it, it's just a seamless process of, oh, thank you for the badge. I create my account, and here I go, and I share it in LinkedIn, and I want to share it with my friends on Facebook, in my HostCo hospitality community platform with World Chefs, and seamlessly I can. And if I really want to, I can download the PDF version of the and hang on my wall for my.
Absolutely, or put it onto your email signature might be a better way to do it. So yes, you can, and that's the other. Hang it
up in your kitchen. Hang it up in your kitchen. Yeah. All your chefs, all your colleague chefs can see the kitchen there, and when they receive an email, they will receive the badge.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's and that's really the power of of that, and it allows the earner again to feel like that they're achieving. And sometimes we fail to recognize the smallest of achievements, and actually credentials do that. Turning up to a webinar or a meeting is for some is a daily practice, and I think since COVID is probably a daily practice for a lot of us in terms of virtual meetings and webinars and things like that. But actually to recognize that somebody's turning up, and and turning up is so important, especially to an employer when you're in and looking for work. Turning up is the first thing that you've got to do. So actually you can recognize that. So if it's going back to that 100% attendance, you could have a badge for you've not had a day off sick. We're going to recognize that, and then the power of going into looking for another job or a promotion or whatever that may be, and going, well, actually, do you know what? Here's my commitment, because I'm being issued this badge because I've turned up every single day. I don't have days off. I don't do that. Even them things to be recognized can be so powerful as well.
Exactly. And now I think you're talking to our members, the associations, because sometimes they are struggling to get the chefs out of their busy kitchens to come to the meetings and like renew their memberships. And here is a way of really empowering the chef himself, of like giving him a member badge, saying like, you're a member of the British Culinary Federation. Here is your badge that proves that. And not only then he is proudly showing his commitment, but as doing so, he's promoting the association, because all his colleagues are going to see that he is actually a member of that association. So they're going to think, oh, wow, so you're there too, or should I get there too? Yeah. Shouldn't I join now? So, but yeah, I think, apart from the what we already talked about, the employers and the schools in our network, this could be a really powerful means for our associations to engage more with the chefs in their country.
Yes, no, absolutely. And it's, it's how do you, when somebody becomes a member of an association, it's, what are they, what do they get as part of that? And if that is that added, extra, again, like you say, it's that shareability, the marketability. If someone sees a chef that they really look up to, or they go, oh, I want to be, and they can see that they're sharing that credential, again, that drives business towards that association. But equally, it means that it's it gives it a logo, a brand presence, and almost that feeling of community. And that's really important, is that these credentials can create a community of people sharing their skills and behaviors and knowledge that they've earned along the way.
Exactly. So with that in mind, just to then tell all our audience listening that Well Chefs is fortunate enough through our partnership is to be sort of have a master platform where we can sublet the platform to our members. We've already started with some, and we're doing some tests. A lot of employers in the culinary schools you mentioned, they are seeing this as the future. They really are. They're really caught up to this. More and more employers are approaching us, and we are putting in place badging already. We are with some around the world, some major employers. But yeah, for our associations, they can actually get access to this solution through World Chefs, and also that recognition with World Chefs. So not only you're a member of your country association, but you're a member of a global community. So that's like, it's us all pulling together in World Chefs, the World Chefs family, with millions of chefs around the world. So that was a message to my audience. And thank you, Sam, for coming on the show to reinforce my message, because yeah, I think as you said, it sounded a bit tacky in the beginning, and sometimes when people are not familiar and haven't seen it, sounds a bit tacky. But in fact, no, it's almost like common sense. And you said many of those words, sustainability, the exposure. Where is it? It's on your social media. It's not, you're not walking around with your paper certificates, are you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's it's not, and hospitality and tech probably aren't two words that go together very much on there. So I can imagine it's there is that fear that sits behind it, but actually when you break it down really, really simply, it is about being able to recognize people's achievements, being able to recognize skills, recognize behaviors, and being able to being part of something that is shareable, that it can be put across the world. And that's really, really important and powerful to both organizations, the individuals themselves, which how out of all of this are the most important earners of the credentials are the most important ones. So it's about empowering them and letting them know that the skills that they've got mean something, that what their achievements that they're going mean something, and what better way to recognize that with building up a portfolio of credentials.
Absolutely. So thank you for that, Sam. Thank you for joining the podcast. It's been really interesting. And so I urge everybody listening that if you want to test and see how easy it is, well, just follow one of World Chef's next webinars. We have them all the time. And so if you go to worldchefs.org, create your account, we will send you details when the next webinar is taking place. We have some very exciting webinars coming up on sustainability, on creativity, you name it, gelato making. And there's a lot of content out there. So when you sign up, you will get your certificate, your digital badge by mail, and you can see how it's easy to use it. Take that even further. Take that to your employer. Or if you are at a culinary school, take that to the head teacher, the head of the school, and see how as a corporate, as a culinary school, as a chef association, you can actually use this tool, because it's a very powerful marketing tool, and you can use it to engage more with your members and employees and so what have you. So yeah, we will put all this information on our podcast page. So if you just click on the link after listening to the podcast, you will have all the information, the links of how to get started. And so we'll be very happy to receive any questions to office@worldchefs.org. So thank you all for listening. Thank you, Sam, again.
Thanks, Ragnar.
You've been listening to World Chef Podcast. I'm your host, Ragnar, and this is World on a Plate. So take care, everybody, and looking forward with new content for the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.